Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a journey, really diving into a life story that's just as vividly colored and honestly as profoundly turbulent as the masterpieces it inspired.
Hmm.
Imagine, if you will, an existence where creating this universally adored beauty was just inextricably woven with immense personal anguish. We're talking, of course, about Vincent Willem van Gogh,
That name.
his
Yeah.
art, now this iconic global treasure. It emerged from a life that was anything but serene. So this is going to be our deep dive into his remarkable journey, really exploring the complex man behind those brushstrokes.
That's right. And our exploration today, it's really built on the rich insights from sources like Van Gogh, A Life in Color and Anguish, and others too.
Mhm.
Our mission really is to distill the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key insights, offering you, our listener, a kind of shortcut to being truly well-informed about this legendary artist.
Yeah, not just looking at the paintings.
Exactly. We're not just admiring masterpieces. We want to delve into the human story, that unique convergence of his genius and his struggles, and try to understand why his work still resonates so powerfully with us, even today, across generations.
Right.
So yeah, prepare to see the world in all its vibrant complexity and poignant shadows through Vincent's eyes.
Okay, let's begin then, right at the genesis, the very start of this extraordinary life. Vincent Willem van Gogh was born March 30th, 1853, in Zundert. It's a small, pretty quiet village in the Brabant region of the Netherlands.
Humble beginnings.
Very humble setting, yeah. But his family background was, well, anything but ordinary in some ways. His father, Theodorus van Gogh, he was a devoted Protestant minister, and his mother, Anna Cornelia Carbentus, came from a family of bookbinders.
Right, so there's religion and literacy right there in the home.
Exactly. That home was steeped in this intellectual and deeply religious atmosphere. And that would profoundly shape Vincent's worldview. You can really see it. He was brought up on Bible stories, parables, a strong sense of moral duty, especially towards the less fortunate.
Yeah, that compassion.
That early immersion in Christian teachings, particularly his father's ministry, the focus on compassion, on service, it instilled in him this really profound perception of humanity and a sensitivity to suffering that, well, it undeniably influenced his later artistic themes.
Absolutely.
He saw people, especially laborers, the poor, through this lens of empathy and dignity. And that perspective became central to his early work. And you could argue even his later stuff, too.
And what's really intriguing here is how those early, seemingly quiet observations, the walks, watching people, how they laid the groundwork for this intensely expressive artist, an artist whose work would later just explode with emotion.
Right. It wasn't obvious at first.
No, not at all. His childhood, it's often described as introverted, quiet. Young Vincent found solace, companionship, not really in bustling social circles, but in solitary, frequent walks.
Yeah.
Through those flat Dutch landscapes, the fields, canals, the humble cottages.
Just observing.
Exactly. A keen observer, absorbing every detail. Nature, the lives of the working class people he saw every day. And despite, like you said, no obvious artistic inclination or formal training early on, this deep curiosity for nature, for the subtle shifts in light, the texture of the earth, the raw humanity of everyday life, that became central, almost obsessive themes in his later incredibly expressive canvases. He often struggled academically, apparently found formal schooling quite stifling, which really stands in stark contrast to that emotional sensitivity, those razor-sharp observational skills that became so evident in his art later.
Yeah, it's a real contrast.
And it's also vital to remember the context, the challenging conditions for anyone wanting to be an artist in 19th century Holland. Plus, the limited support, really, for his artistic aspirations when he was young. This lack of an easy, preordained path, it really sets the stage for the persistent economic and personal struggles he'd faced throughout his life as he just relentlessly pursued that artistic calling.
And this leads us, doesn't it, to that crucial turning point. Vincent's artistic interest, it didn't truly blossom until his early 20s.
Right, later than you might think.
Yeah. And this period, maybe paradoxically, it coincided with some of the most painful, most transformative experiences of his life. Consider 1879, for instance. He undertook missionary work, like his father, sort of, as a pastor's assistant in the Borinage.
Ah, the mining region. Bleak place.
Incredibly bleak, an impoverished coal mining region in Belgium.
Yeah.
And witnessing the miners' brutal lives, their grueling labor, the pervasive poverty, the harsh, dangerous conditions, It just profoundly moved him.
He lived with them, didn't he?
He did. Lived among them, shared their hardships, gave away what little he had, even slept on straw sometimes. This wasn't just observation from afar, it was deep, empathetic immersion, a connection that compelled him finally to start sketching and drawing them. He felt this moral imperative, almost, to depict their reality, not to romanticize it, not to idealize it, but capture the raw grit, the struggle of human existence in its most unvarnished form.
Yeah, and you can see how that connects back to his religious upbringing, that compassion finding a new outlet.
Exactly, channeling that compassion into visual expression.
Which, raises that powerful question. How did such a seemingly bleak, challenging period become the crucible for his utterly unique artistic voice?
Right. How did that lead to Van Gogh?
And I think we find a profound answer in a work like The Potato Eaters, painted in 1885. This wasn't just a painting. It was raw, unflinching social commentary.
Definitely.
A direct testament to the dignity he saw in poverty and the sheer arduousness of manual labor. He intentionally used that palette dominated by dark, earthy browns and greens. It creates this somber, almost claustrophobic atmosphere.
It's heavy.
It is. Yet his masterful use of dramatic light and shadow, that single lamp illuminating their faces, their gnarled hands, it pierces through the darkness. It evokes this profound sense of empathy, compassion in the viewer.
You feel it.
You really do. The texture of their skin, the steam from the potatoes, every detail is rendered to convey a feeling, a lived experience, not just a scene. This piece, with its social critique, it represented a significant artistic breakthrough for him. His first major attempt to capture the, let's say, the spiritual essence of the working class. And during this period, Van Gogh was already consciously moving beyond those rigid academic norms. He was seeking a freer, more experimental style, one that privileged emotional truth over, say, technical precision.
Right. Painting how it felt.
Exactly. He famously aimed to paint reality not just as it appeared to the eye, but as he felt it in his soul. Every brushstroke serving as an expression of his inner world.
And all this while struggling financially.
Oh, absolutely. It's crucial to remember this was also a time of enduring economic hardship. He relied almost entirely on the financial support of his devoted brother, Theo.
Theo, yeah. The constant support.
The constant. But that deep desire to paint, to connect with and express the struggles of common people, that truly fueled his motivation. It pushed him forward despite immense personal adversity. It was a period of intense artistic and personal formation, where his compassionate spirit found its first true visual language.
A truly transformative chapter then unfolds when we turn to this pivotal moment in his artistic evolution. Van Gogh's move to Paris, March 1886.
Big move.
Huge. This wasn't just changing a dress, it was a seismic shift for his art. Paris at that time, it was far more than just a city. It was the vibrant, pulsating epicenter of modern art.
Everything was happening there.
Everything. New movements exploding across the city. Impressionism, capturing fleeting light and atmosphere with those visible brushstrokes. Neo-Impressionism, exploring systematic color application through dots, pointillism. Exactly. And a whole host of other avant-garde movements, just challenging traditional artistic conventions left, right, and center. And Van Gogh didn't just observe, he immersed himself.
He jumped right in.
Frequented galleries, studied the works of, and even met pivotal figures like Monet, Pissarro, Seurat, Signac, witnessing their revolutionary approaches to light, color, form, especially their use of vibrant, unmixed pigments and that innovative brushwork. It radically transformed his own palette.
You can see it almost immediately.
Oh, yeah. It was like he'd been painting in a world of muted tones, and suddenly, Paris just opened his eyes to this explosion of pure, dazzling color. This period marks such a dramatic departure from the somber realism of his Dutch years.
And looking at the bigger picture, Paris wasn't just a place of learning for him. It was a catalyst for a complete internal revolution in his artistic expression.
Right, a total reset.
Yeah, the shift in his work was undeniable and astonishingly rapid. From those previous canvases dominated by the dark, earthy tones reflecting the somber realities of the Dutch countryside and its people, his color scale just exploded. Brilliant yellows, intense blues, vivid greens, fiery reds.
The colors we know him for now.
Precisely. And his brushstrokes, too, evolved dramatically. They became freer, bolder, much more dynamic, creating this incredible sense of movement and energy right there on the canvas. He spent a bit over 2 years in Paris, but in that relatively short time, he underwent this astonishing period of rapid artistic development. He experimented relentlessly, absorbing influences from, like you said, pointillism's color theory, Impressionism's focus on light, weaving them into this increasingly unique style that was entirely his own.
And it wasn't all smooth sailing personally, was it?
No, and here lies that poignant paradox. Despite this immense artistic growth, his immersion in the thriving Parisian art scene, his social interactions remained remarkably limited.
Still quite isolated.
Very. His personal loneliness, his mental distress, far from diminishing, they seemed to intensify amidst the city's vibrant stimulation. It was a turbulent, often isolated existence. But this complex atmosphere in Paris, the sheer volume of artistic innovation, and his intense personal absorption, it laid the absolute foundation for his later, almost feverish obsession with pure color and light, the stuff that would define his most iconic and emotionally charged works.
Which leads us, naturally, to Arles.
Yeah.
Arguably his most productive and, well, in many ways, his most creatively explosive period. His move there, to that sun-drenched town in southern France, February 1888.
Yeah, the south of France. Big change again.
Huge. Imagine the immediate profound impact of that warm Mediterranean climate, the incredibly bright, almost blinding light compared to Paris or Holland, and the vivid, saturated colors of the Provençal landscape.
It's like the saturation slider was turned way up.
Exactly. It wasn't just a backdrop, it was an active participant in his art, further enriching his palette, making those brilliant yellows and luminous blues incredibly dominant in his work. The sheer intensity of the light, it seemed to unlock a new level of emotional expression for him.
You feel the heat in those paintings.
You do. His Arles works aren't merely picturesque scenes, they're passionate manifestos of his intense love, his profound admiration for nature in its purest form, and for the simple, dignified lives of the ordinary people he encountered there. The farmers, the postman roulant, the cafe patrons.
And what truly stands out about his time in Arles is that sheer intensity, both creative and emotional, that defined it. It's almost as if the brilliance of his art was powered by the internal fire of his struggles.
A double-edged sword.
Very much so. We see this most vividly in his now iconic Sunflower series. These aren't just still lifes of flowers. They're bursting with life's energy. Each petal, each stem rendered with vibrant colors, dynamic brushstrokes that practically vibrate off the canvas, capturing this profound sense of vitality, of growth.
They feel alive.
They do. And during this period, Van Gogh also held this deeply cherished vision. He dreamed of establishing an artist colony in Arles, a communal space he called the Studio of the South, where artists could live, work, inspire one another.
The Yellow House.
The Yellow House, yeah. And to that end, he eagerly invited Paul Gauguin, an artist whose work he deeply admired, to join him.
Which didn't end well.
No,
No.
tragically not. This artistic collaboration, while initially stimulating, was short-lived and became increasingly tense. Their personalities clashed, their artistic philosophies diverged, their shared living space became this pressure cooker of creative ambition and, well, psychological instability. This escalating tension culminated in that tragic turning point, which starkly revealed his fragile mental health. The infamous psychotic episode in December 1888 where he mutilated his own ear.
Yeah, the ear incident.
That act of self-harm, following a heated argument with Gauguin, it forced Gauguin to leave and marked a profound descent into the depths of Van Gogh's mental illness. So the Arles period really presents this profound duality, a peak of unparalleled artistic achievement, a burst of creative genius unmatched in his career,
Right.
inextricably intertwined with a tragic personal collapse. And both aspects are powerfully reflected in the raw emotion, the turbulent brushwork, the vibrant intensity of his art from that time. It's a period that embodies the very essence of his genius and his suffering.
Which brings us to maybe one of the most poignant and difficult aspects of Van Gogh's life, his continuous, often agonizing battle with his mental health.
Yeah, it's unavoidable when talking about him.
It really is. This was a pervasive force that shaped so much of his artistic journey and his personal existence. Over the last century, there's been extensive retrospective psychiatric assessment, research trying to understand his complex condition.
Trying to diagnose after the fact.
Exactly. Scholars, medical professionals, they've proposed several potential diagnoses. Things like bipolar disorder with its extreme mood swings, temporal lobe epilepsy, which can affect emotion, perception, behavior, schizophrenia with altered realities, hallucinations perhaps, or even borderline personality disorder, marked by intense emotional instability, difficult relationships.
It's complex, and we'll likely never know for sure.
Precisely. A definitive, singular diagnosis remains elusive, subject of ongoing debate. But what is undeniably clear is how profoundly these conditions impacted both his remarkable creativity and his daily life. The episodes were often severe, leading to institutionalization, self-harm, profound suffering. Yet through it all, somehow he continued to paint.
Which raises that important, almost unanswerable question about the nature of genius itself, doesn't it? Was his art a direct product of his mental state, maybe a manifestation of its chaos, its intensity, or was it perhaps a desperate, almost heroic attempt to find order, solace, meaning within that internal maelstrom?
Yeah, cause or coping mechanism.
Or both. Exactly. When you look closely at his paintings, they often act as these startling visual manifestos of his intense emotional fluctuations. You can almost feel the restless energy in his brushstrokes, the vibrant, sometimes excessive, almost feverish use of color.
You see the turmoil.
You do. Works created during his most acute mental crises, like The Night Cafe, or many of those self-portraits from this period, they're vivid expressions where exuberance and agony, clarity and confusion are just intertwined, sometimes almost indistinguishably.
Mm.
And he was remarkably candid about coping with these internal conflicts in his letters, especially to Theo. He wrote about his nervous crises, his attempts to find stability. These letters underscore how art wasn't just a pastime or a profession for him. It was a profound means of escape, a way to channel those turbulent emotions and, in a very real sense, a path to healing.
Like self-therapy through paint.
In a way, yeah. Consider Starry Night, created during his voluntary stay at the San Paul de Mazol Asylum in Saint-Rémy. It's not simply a painting of a night sky. It's this profound symbol of seeking cosmic hope amidst profound internal darkness, a swirling, vibrant testament to his inner world.
It's so iconic.
It is. The turbulent cypress, the vibrant celestial bodies, the quiet village below it all converges to represent a mind grappling with its own reality and seeking connection beyond it. And that's precisely why it holds such an enduring, deeply resonant place in art history. It speaks to that universal human experience of struggle and hope.
Yeah.
Ultimately, his psychological portrait is this complex interplay of artistic genius and tragic humanity, a constant struggle that undeniably fueled and was powerfully reflected in his unparalleled visual vision.
Let's turn then to his final brushstrokes, a period marked by both, as we've said, immense suffering, but also extraordinary productivity. From May 1889, he voluntarily admitted himself to the psychiatric hospital in Saint Paul de Mazol in Saint-Rémy.
His time in the asylum.
Right. And even within those institutional walls, amidst recurring mental crises, his artistic drive remained relentless, powerful. The natural world surrounding the asylum, the olive groves, the cypresses, the fields, the constantly changing light, it profoundly influenced his depictions, added a new, almost kinetic dimension to his landscape.
Painting what he could see from the window or from memory.
Exactly. He couldn't always paint outdoors, so he often worked from memory or imagination, imbuing these scenes with an even greater emotional intensity. Think about Starry Night again in this context. Groundbreaking portrayal of a dynamic, swirling night sky, yes, but it also visibly channels his internal turmoil through those iconic, energetic brushstrokes. The very air seems to vibrate with emotion.
It's electric.
And it wasn't just Starry Night. Many other landscapes from this period, like Wheatfield with cypresses or the olive trees, you can interpret them as visual expressions of his profound search for inner peace, even amidst the suffering. Or maybe, yeah, a desperate attempt to impose order on a chaotic internal world through the harmony of nature.
And placing this in the broader context, his final period, particularly Saint-Rémy and then Auvers-sur-Oise, it shows an artist still producing just astounding work, even as his internal world was tragically crumbling. It's a testament to the sheer power, the unwavering nature of his drive to create.
Incredible resilience.
Truly. In May 1890, seeking a change, and under the care of Dr. Paul Gogh, a homeopathic physician, also an art collector, he moved to Auvers-sur-Oise, a village just north of Paris.
Closer to Theo again.
Right. And this period was, in some ways, calmer, yet still intensely productive. In just 70 days, he produced over 70 paintings, an astonishing rate of output.
Wow. A painting a day, basically.
Pretty much. He painted portraits of Dr. Gachet, local scenes, numerous wheat fields, often with those ominous crows or stormy skies. Works like Wheatfield with crows.
Yeah, this feel foreboding.
They do. However, despite maybe a renewed sense of hope, the change of scenery, his mental problems escalated once more. The exact circumstances are still debated, but the tragic end came swiftly. He self-inflicted a gunshot wound to his chest on July 27, 1890, and succumbed to his injuries 2 days later, July 29th, with his devoted brother Theo right there by his side. His death, at just 37, is widely regarded as one of modern art history's most tragic losses. Cutting short this period of unparalleled creative output leaving us to wonder what more masterpieces might have emerged from his brush.
Yeah, what might have been.
His very last works, painted just days before his death, like tree roots, they reveal this continued exploration of nature's raw energy, perhaps a final, profound meditation on life and existence.
Okay, let's maybe shift gears a bit and delve deeper into Van Gogh's actual artistic language, the revolutionary techniques that are truly considered cornerstones of post-impressionism.
Yeah, how he actually did it.
Exactly. A movement reacting against Impressionism's focus on objective reality, focusing more on emotional, symbolic content. His innovations profoundly influenced countless artists who followed. First, there's his iconic impasto technique.
Oh yeah, the thick paint.
The thick paint. He didn't just apply it, he built it. Used paint so thickly, often straight from the tube, creating tangible, three-dimensional texture on the canvas.
You can almost feel the ridges.
You can. It wasn't just decorative, it transformed the flat surface into this living, tactile entity. It almost beckons the viewer to touch it. This technique added incredible physicality, raw energy to his work, making his subjects feel immediate, alive. Then, his masterful and highly deliberate use of complementary color theory, this was groundbreaking.
Playing colors off each other.
Exactly. He wasn't afraid to experiment with how colors interact, especially juxtaposing contrasting colors, vibrant yellow and deep purple, warm orange, and cool blue. This wasn't random. It was a deliberate choice to generate the highest possible contrast, incredible visual energy within the paintings, making the colors vibrate, almost leap off the canvas.
Creates that intensity.
Totally. His brushstrokes, of course, immediately recognizable. Short, swirling, rhythmic, often very visible. They didn't just depict, they enacted movement.
Yeah.
Whether it's the swirling sky in Starry Night or the rippling wheat fields, this active brushwork heightened the sense of dynamism, emotional intensity in every piece.
Even in a portrait.
Even in a portrait, yeah.
Yeah.
From a quiet landscape to a bustling street scene. And when it came to composition, he consistently preferred asymmetry, dynamic arrangements over traditional static symmetry.
Keeps your eye moving.
Exactly. It imbued his paintings with this continuous sense of vital energy, making them feel alive in constant motion, pulling the viewer's eye across the canvas rather than letting it settle on one spot. These innovations weren't just stylistic choices, they were foundational, serving as profound inspiration for later movements like Fauvism with its wild, non-naturalistic colors.
Right, the wild beasts.
And Expressionism, which prioritized emotional impact, inner experience over objective reality. He literally shifted the course of art history.
And what's truly fascinating here is how his technical innovations weren't just for show, were they? They were absolutely integral to conveying that profound emotional and symbolic depth he saw in everything around him.
Form followed feeling.
Perfectly put. Beyond the surface of his technique, Van Gogh's works explored this diverse range of deeply personal and universal themes. His nature and landscapes weren't mere topographical depictions. His wheat fields, olive groves, night scenes like the starry night over the Rhone, they were reflections of life cycles, the universal energy permeating all things, and often his own emotional state. They were alive, imbued with his spirit. His human portraits, especially those numerous self-portraits, they offer an unparalleled, astonishingly honest glimpse into his inner world, meticulously documenting his changing moods, psychological shifts, physical appearance with raw honesty. He used them as a mirror, not just of his face, but of his soul.
Unflinching.
Absolutely. And then there are his paintings of ordinary objects, like his famous Bedroom in Arles or the iconic Sunflowers series. He elevated these seemingly mundane, everyday items, imbuing them with immense meaning, a profound love of life, transforming them into subjects worthy of deep contemplation.
Seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Precisely. For Van Gogh, nature, people, objects in his paintings, they were never just physical realities. They always carried deep, symbolic, emotional meaning. Every vibrant color, every swirling brushstroke, every carefully chosen subject was a testament to his unique, intensely personal way of seeing and feeling the world. A visual testament to the profound connection he felt with existence itself.
And this leads us perfectly to what is perhaps the most intimate, the most unfiltered window into the soul of Vincent van Gogh. His extraordinary collection of letters, primarily to his brother, Theo.
Ah, the letters. Essential.
Absolutely essential. These aren't just casual notes or simple correspondences. They are unparalleled resources for truly understanding his inner world, his evolving artistic philosophy, the relentless struggles he faced throughout his short life.
Hundreds of them.
Over 600 letters just to Theo alone, plus others to family, fellow artists. They form this sprawling, deeply personal autobiography. It's an intimate, raw, often heart-wrenching glimpse into the mind of a genius grappling with existence, poverty, illness, and that unyielding pursuit of his artistic vision.
Which really raises that powerful question again. How often in history do we get such an unfiltered window into the mind of a genius, revealing the raw humanity behind the myth?
It's incredibly rare.
It is. In these letters, Van Gogh articulated with profound clarity that art was not merely his profession, it was his very way of life, his primary means of expression, and critically, a path to healing. Salvation almost from his inner demons. He wrote about his deep belief that colors, light, nature, they touched the human soul, and that through his art he sought to share humanity's universal joys, sorrows, aspirations. He confessed his loneliness, his bouts of despair, his often fragile hope, describing his canvases as a kind of language or speaking. Wow. He wrote to Theo famously, "I put my heart and soul into my work, and I've lost my mind in the process."
Chilling.
Yeah. But the letters aren't solely about art. They delve into recurring themes beyond his canvases. The complexities of human relationships, that pervasive sense of loneliness he often felt, his moments of fragile hope, the depths of his despair. He often signed them simply, "Your loving brother Vincent."
That relationship was so crucial.
Absolutely. These correspondences, meticulously preserved by Theo and later his wife Johanna, they reveal Van Gogh not just as a painter of extraordinary, almost otherworldly talent, but as a deeply thoughtful, feeling, remarkably articulate human being, grappling with profound questions of life, suffering, the meaning of existence. They're a testament to his intelligence, his spirit, and that enduring bond he shared with his brother, who wasn't just his financial support, but his confidant, his spiritual anchor. So when we step back, what does this all mean for us today? Despite a life largely devoid of material and social success, a life, as we've seen, marked by intense struggle, misunderstanding, profound personal anguish, Van Gogh's art achieved this unique, unparalleled place in world art history after his death. The ultimate irony, in a way. It really is. A remarkable testament to the power of persistence, of vision, his profound influence on 20th century art movements through that innovative use of color, those emotionally charged brushstrokes, his utterly original compositions. It just cannot be overstated. He literally opened doors for new ways of seeing and creating, paved the way.
Absolutely. He wasn't interested in simply rendering reality, he painted what he felt, pushing color beyond mere depiction into this direct language of raw emotion. This radical shift proved that color could be a tool for pure expression, not just representation, and it served as direct inspiration for specific movements. We can clearly see his legacy in Fauvism,
The bright colors.
which erupted with those wild, non-naturalistic colors to express emotional force. And Expressionism, a movement prioritizing emotional impact, inner psychological states over objective reality. Even elements of abstract art owe a debt to his daring freedom of form and color.
What's truly fascinating here is the enduring, almost magnetic power of his work, which long after his death just transcends culture, transcends time. It makes us question what truly constitutes success and legacy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does.
Today, Van Gogh's paintings aren't just recognized. They're among the most celebrated, highest-priced artworks globally, drawing millions to museums worldwide. But beyond their immense monetary value, their institutional status, it's the sheer universality of his art, its undeniable power to deeply affect the human soul, that's made him not just an artist, but a truly significant figure in human history.
More than just a painter.
Much more. His life story, fraught with both unparalleled artistic genius and tragic humanity, stands as one of the most striking, poignant examples of how these two seemingly disparate elements can be inextricably intertwined, forever leaving their vibrant, unforgettable mark on the world. His art, born of struggle, speaks to us of beauty, hope, and the profound resilience of the human spirit.
And there you have it. Our deep dive into the extraordinary and often agonizing journey of Vincent van Gogh. We've explored his quiet, humble beginnings in Zundert, the raw awakening of his artistic vision in those Belgian coal fields, the revolutionary shift in his palette amidst the avant-garde ferment of Paris, and that glorious but ultimately tragic zenith of creativity down in Arles. We've touched upon his lifelong battle with mental health that informs so much of his work, and revisited his final, incredibly productive days.
Yeah, and we've seen how his unique techniques, like that tactile impasto and his daring use of complementary colors, created an artistic language all his own, and how his intimate, poignant letters to Theo offer this unparalleled window into his brilliant and troubled soul.
Right.
Understanding Van Gogh, I think, means seeing his art not just as a collection of beautiful images, but as the raw, unfiltered outpouring of a deeply feeling human being. It offers a unique perspective on creativity forged in the crucible of resilience and struggle, and how profound emotion can translate into timeless beauty.
So, to leave you, our listeners, with a thought-provoking idea for your own reflection, Vincent van Gogh painted the world not merely as it appeared, but as it felt, imbued with his own intense emotions and observations. What can his raw honesty, his relentless pursuit of expression, teach us about articulating our own inner worlds, even when they are fractured or challenging?
Good question.
We invite you to look at his art with this renewed understanding, perhaps finding echoes of your own human experience within those vibrant, swirling canvases. Until next time, keep diving deep.